Hello friends. This is Phoenix What If. How are you all? So in this video, we will see. What if Naruto and Kisame have been teleported to a new world and got harem? But before we start, if you want more amazing stuff like this, then be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video. Also if possible share this video with your friends. Now without wasting any more time, let's begin the story. Main Akatsuki base he had fought for so long. He was so tired, and now, finally at the end of his journey, he couldn't help but get that familiar feeling in his gut that told him he was screwed, again. These thoughts belonged to one Naruto Uzumaki. He knew of his heritage but couldn't forgive the man who had effectively ruined his life even though it was a needed sacrifice at the time. So he naturally denied that part of him. He was wearing black combat boots with a pair of block cargo pants that were tucked into his boots. He also had on a joint mask shirt with no sleeves, that was skin-tight, showing off his well-developed muscles. On top of that was a pitch-black trench coat that was buttoned up to the top which stopped at his mouth. It had no sleeves showing off his dragon summoning tattoo on his left arm. Over his heart was a Konoha headband with a slash through it, signifying him as a missing nin. He had what looked like an enormous bottle of sake hanging on his belt. A short chained dragon earring hung from his right lobe. To top it all off he had on a pair of smooth black shades covering his eyes completely. Naruto's hair was short and spiky. He looks like a blonde Orin with black clothes from FFX. He had just beaten Madara Uchiha and basically stopped the Fourth Great Shinobi War. All he had to do was finish off the Uchiha with his enormous blade. It looked like a mechanical wonder. He had named it the Buster Blade. Cloud's sword from Advent Children. The blade could separate into 7 different blades and would also form a single huge blade. He made his way over to the downed madman as he asked his own state of health. He had wounds covering his entire being but they were healing fast due to him being the Kyuubi Jinchuriki. That was why he had left Konoha. The civilian council and the elders sent him on a suicide mission. What they didn't expect was for him to complete it. He was ordered to kill Orochimaru, the snake Sannin who had gone rogue. When he walked into the council room and threw his head to the floor, both civilian and shinobi councils were stunned. He then informed them that he knew of the civilian's suicide mission and drew a kunai and slashed his headband in front of the entire audience. He then shunshined out of the room and started to walk out of Konoha with his head held high. Those who tried to stop were killed quickly, with the exception of his friends who were only following orders. That was less than a year ago and he was branded AS rank missing nin. Tsunade was so shocked that she went on a 3-week drinking binge. She used her powers as Hokage to their full potential but the most she could salvage was he received a flee on sight order as well. He probably would have gotten it anyway with his skills. He was known far and wide as the Kurokaze or Black Wind. He could also use Black Lightning to a similar degree but his winds had made him famous. When the Akatsuki started hunting the Jinchuriki he wanted a spy in the organization. He got 2 but 1 died fighting his brother. He was Itachi Uchiha. He had massacred his entire clan except his younger brother. Itachi had believed him able to redeem the Uchiha clan. And to an extent he had. When the truth of the Uchiha massacre had been released to the public, Sasuke had returned to Konoha but refused to accept the CRA, Clan Restoration Act, due to him only loving one woman. Ironically enough it was Ino he had grown attached to. His other spy was Kisame Hoshigaki, the feared monster of the Hidden Mist. He had finished taking care of Kabuto and had joined him in the main room where he had fought Madara. The two walked over to him and as Naruto had raised his blade to finish the madness once and for all, the Uchiha started laughing like a madman, again. When he calmed down enough to talk he spoke with a wide grin. "Congratulations Naruto, you managed what no other person has. You killed me. I may be dying but you two aren't getting a happy ending if I have anything to say about it." His Sharingan eyes morphed into the EM Sharingan and he activated Kamui. A portal opened and both were pulled in. As his life left him, the last thing he saw was the joint shinobi army and the 5 cages rushing into the room watching helplessly as the two were sent away. He died with a content, smug smile on his face. Seaside city of Bodum. Naruto and Kisame had crashed into a back alley in a dingy part of the city. Kisame shook his head and looked at Naruto. Said blonde was already on his feet looking at the panic in the streets commence as troops with weird weapons rounded up civilians. Kisame broke the ice as Naruto didn't talk much after he became a missing nin. So, what do we do now? He asked simply. He had gotten up and discarded of his Akatsuki cloak and was wearing a new cloak that was the same as the Akatsuki one, but it was white with black clouds. His massive sword, Samahata, was on his back. Naruto watched what was happening for a few more seconds before answering him. We have no way to get back, so I would assume we make this place our home, but these soldiers seem to be roughing up the civilians. We need more information. Cast a genjutsu over your sword and yourself. I have a feeling those people would attack first with the way you look. No offense. I will cast one as well over my blade and we'll follow these people to wherever they are taking them. Naruto said calmly in a semi-deep voice. He was only 21, he didn't want to sound like Frank Sinatra yet. Kisame nodded his head, not taking what he said as an insult. Many people back in the elemental nations also were afraid of him even though it was a bloodline. He sighed before adjusting his sword. Alright, well, best get going then. Naruto nodded to that and they both cast their respective genjutsu and walked into the herded crowd. Train station. Naruto and Kisame had received little trouble from the local militia. They were in a line that was boarding something called a purge train. They were both in front of a pink-haired woman who looked like she was a soldier as well. She was speaking with another soldier who told her military are exempt from the purge. She turned over her weapon and spoke as she went back into the line. Then I resign. Can I be purged now? She asked with a fiery attitude. Naruto raised an eyebrow at her. Kisame, who saw this, smirked. Huh, the guy has a new crush on Ms. Soldier, huh? Well, he deserves something good to happen to him. He then went to thinking of ways to torture the blonde over this new discovery. An African-American man walked up to her. He wore an army green jacket and beige cargo pants with black boots. He had an afro with a small chicken sticking out of it. Hey, why would you want to join the purge? I thought this would be quiet, he said to her. She didn't even look at him as she spoke. You want quiet, you'd better take the next train. As she walked into a machine that put a strange outfit on her. Naruto and Kisame were already boarding when they heard her. They both smirked at what she had said. Hanging Edge, Lightning and the newly named Saz had taken the purge train only for it to be thrown off the tracks. They were now facing thing responsible for the act. A Manasvan Warmech was baring its metaphorical fangs at them. Lightning cursed their bad luck. Damn it, those are only used in heavy combat situations. I've never seen one work in the field, so I can't tell you its weaknesses if it has any. Lightning said seriously. Saz sighed and pulled out his dual pistols. Man, I'm getting too old for this shit. And just as they were about to fight it, a black blur slammed into its side, knocking it over the edge of the road. Another figure landed right beside it. The appearance of the two strangers momentarily stunned Lightning and Saz. One had spiky blonde hair and was wearing a black trench coat that was buttoned up all the way and had no sleeves. He also was wearing a black face mask and cargo pants as well as boots. He had a dragon tattoo on his left arm and a huge blade on his back. His companion, though, was even weirder. He had blue skin and was wearing a white cloak with black clouds. He had what looked like gills on the sides of his neck and a shark-like grin. His hair was a darker shade of blue. He had an equally large sword on his back, only his was bandaged. Both turned to the duo and walked over. Saz was getting nervous and Lightning got ready for a fight. The blonde one seemed to see the tension and spoke. We are not your enemies. We were also on the purge train. We only want to help, the blonde said. His big blue companion nodded. Lightning slowly put away her weapon and Saz relaxed. Lightning spoke first. Who are you two? She asked in a tone that gave no room for backing out. The two raised an eyebrow but answered her anyway. Name's Kisame and my partner here is Naruto. He doesn't talk much, so don't expect much out of him. That was the most he has spoken since we got in line for this damned purge. The newly named Kisame spoke with his trademark shark smile. Naruto had walked to the edge of the platform and was watching the purged people fighting back against the military. Lightning watched him as was doing this. She seemed to sense him trying to figure out why there was basically a genocide happening and decided to elaborate on the situation. The purge is just a show for PSICOM to murder the entire populace. Why take the supposed threat all the way to Pulse when you can just wipe it all out here? She spoke in a cold tone that showed she had just recently found out and didn't approve of her government's methods. Naruto seemed glad at her moral stand against it. She had moved next to Naruto and watched the events unfolding in front of them. Naruto saw he was only a few inches taller than her. Saz was surprised and angry. Wait, you knew this was gonna happen? You knew all of these people were slated for execution? He all but yelled. Kisame's face had gone deadly serious. Naruto had a small frown that no one could see due to his mask. Lightning seemed to snap at that. No, I didn't figure it out until recently. The purge is PSICOM's baby, not the Guardian Corps. We protect the people, she said coldly again. Naruto frowned again. He knew Lightning was wearing a mask but decided now was really not the time to talk about their feelings. All right, Naruto said before walking to what looked like a floating bridge. Then wherever it is we're going we can take this thing there. They all nodded in agreement and got onto the platform. Lightning turned to Naruto and spoke in a determined voice. We're heading to that, the Pulse Vestige. She pointed to a giant structure that was floating and was surrounded by a lot of enemy aircraft. Inside the Pulse Vestige, Naruto and the others had been walking for a few minutes now and Lightning saw something and started running. When Naruto got a good look at it he saw it was a girl with pink hair just like Lightning's and she had some sort of brand on her left arm. The girl looked up at Lightning weakly and spoke in a whisper. You came, she said. Lightning was starting to go into an overly concerned state. Don't worry Sarah, I'll get you home. She picked up the girl and started to walk away when Saz got in the way. What are you doing? We have to move. Lightning yelled, losing her thin patience. Naruto and Kisame watched from the side with narrow eyes. They were missing something. Saz just looked at Sarah before putting his hands on his guns. That girl's a Pulse Lassie. An enemy of Cocoon, he said simply with no emotion. Lightning narrowed her eyes. So that means she should just die. I won't let that happen, I'm her sister. She spoke in a cold, fierce tone. Saz picked up on the warning and backed off a LT tile but still tried to press his point. Look, if that girl doesn't complete her focus you know what'll happen. She turned into one of those monsters we fought on the way in. He was trying to tell her that it would be a mercy. No, I'm getting Sarah out of, a voice interrupted her. Sarah, yelled a big blonde man. He had on a black bandana and a tan trench coat that was open. He also wore baggy black pants and boots. He was followed by two kids. One was a girl and she had red hair and wore a top that had no sleeves and a revealing skirt made out of fur. Her name was Vinny. The boy had silver hair and wore an orange and yellow jacket and shirt with olive green pants and tennis shoes. His name was Hope. The kids looked around 16 or 17 while the blonde man was probably around 24 or 25. Sarah looked weakly to her left and spoke. Is that my hero? She asked. The man had a determined look on his face. Don't you worry Sarah, I'll get you home and then we'll… Lightning cut him off this time. No you're not. I'm taking Sarah back to our home, she said fiercely. Come on sis, we both just want Sarah to be safe. Why can't we work together? The man tried to reason with her. Don't call me sis, Snow. You couldn't protect her. It's your fault she was cut off because the entire structure started to shake. Damn army is trying to blow the place to Kingdom Come, Saz said. Lightning had accidentally dropped Sarah. However, before she could pick her up a bright light appeared around Sarah. She was lifted into the air and turned into a crystal. Naruto and Kisame raised their eyebrows while everyone else was speechless. Kisame broke the stunning silence. Someone mind explaining what just happened? He asked rudely. Saz spoke in a quiet voice but everyone still heard him. It's just like the legend says. You complete your focus, you're granted eternal life and transformed into a crystal. Everyone looked at him and he grew nervous. Well, that's what the legend says anyway, he finished awkwardly. Suddenly a huge door opened and the two shinobis sensed an immensely powerful being in that direction. Lightning started to walk in the doors. Snow stopped her and asked what she was doing. She turned her head and spoke. I'm going to have a talk with the Falsi. She turned back and started walking. Naruto followed her to make sure she didn't get into too much trouble. The rest broke from their surprised states and quickly hurried after the two. When everyone caught up, Kisame voiced another one of his questions. So what exactly is a fal'Cie? This stunned the native people. Kisame looked sleepish and Naruto had tick mark above his brow. Snow stuttered as he replied. What do you mean? What's a fal'Cie? How could you not know about them? He asked incredulously. Naruto and Kisame both shrugged and the fishman answered. We're not from around here. He said simply. The other's eyes widened at that comment. Lightning spoke this time. What do you mean by that? Where exactly are you from? She said, drilling them for answers while the rest of the group listened, wanting to hear the answer. Naruto answered now. We will tell you when we are in a less dangerous situation. Right now none of us need to be distracted. Lightning and the others begrudgingly accepted the response. When they arrived at the main room, they saw what looked like an armored terminal with arms. Snow got in front of it begging for Sarah back. Lightning attacked before talking to Snow. You beg for Sarah? I'm just taking her back. And the two prepared for the battle. Saz walked over to the two after sighing. I guess I'll join you as well. I hope you don't mind a rookie, but I got these things. He said, unholstering his guns. Lightning and Snow nodded. Then Naruto walked forward, drawing his enormous blade. He said nothing as he got into a kenjutsu stance. Snow and Saz were surprised by his actions because, as far as they knew, he had nothing at stake in this fight. Lightning nodded her head and let out a silent thanks for his support. Kisame groaned as he leaned against a wall. Damn it. I got stuck with babysitting two brats. Hope and Vani glared at him while the others let out a small chuckle. Naruto only smirked. The Animus let out a pulse of raw power that blew everyone back, and the battle began. Saz was keeping his distance, firing on the arms it materialized. He knew he would be no good to anyone in close-range combat. He was so focused on covering the others he didn't see the arms swing and knock him backwards. He flew through the air, then he was suddenly stopped and put down. When he opened his eyes he saw Kisame had caught him but never took his eyes off the battle. Saz started to head back into the fray when Kisame stopped him. Wait. You'll only get in the way. Naruto is keeping them out of serious trouble at the moment. For now rest. We'll work on getting you toughened up later. And true to his word, Naruto was pulling both Lightning and Snow out of the way when a major attack came their way. He also dealt his fair amount of damage, but he didn't seem to be trying. He let Lightning and Snow vent their feelings while he kept them from making reckless moves. Saz relented soon after he saw this. Fine, but you better keep your part of the deal on getting me stronger. Saz spoke like he was out of breath. And truthfully, he was. Hope's eyes seemed to brighten at the possibility of getting stronger. Hey, Kisame, could you possibly train me too? He asked hopefully. He needed to get stronger so he could get revenge on Snow. Kisame eyed him for a moment before turning back to the fight. I can't help you, kid. First you gotta move on from whatever is holding you back. Until you do that you can never truly get strong. I know the past hurts, but it's called the past for a reason. Just as now, the present is just that. A present. Cherish every moment you have while you have it. Mourn those who have passed on, but don't let your life revolve around them. Hope was shocked by what he had said. How could he just let Snow get away with what he had done? It was his fault his mother had died. Naruto had destroyed both arms and told Lightning and Snow to attack the main body. When they did enough damage, a bright light engulfed them all. They found themselves floating helplessly as the fal'Cie sent its tentacles to mark them all. They were branded as Pulse Lassie. Then the world went white. On the crystallized Lake Brescia, Naruto felt a little pain as he woke up. What happened? We had the damn thing on the ropes. The blonde thought. He shook his head to clear his mind and looked around. He saw the others as they were waking as well. Saz groaned and mumbled something about being too old. They were standing on solid crystal. The others looked on with amazement. Naruto and Kisame, while still surprised, got over it quickly. They had seen stranger things after all. Kisame in a disgruntled tone as he adjusted his massive blade on his back. How'd we get here? The last thing I remember was being in that damnable pulse vestige with you guys, fighting the fal'Cie anima, he asked rhetorically. Naruto turned away from the group and walked to a ledge overlooking the new crystal lake. Sarah. Naruto turned his eyes back to his companions after hearing Snow shouting his fiancée's name. Everyone, aside from Naruto, had woken up at the same time. They have got up adjusting themselves to what just happened. Soon they realized their surroundings. Looking around where they were confused, remembering the last thing that they were at the vestige. Everything around them was covered in crystal. There was nothing but crystal surrounding the area. They had no idea where they were or what happened. Thinking about the vestige, gazing further ahead, they spotted the Pulsion ruin buried in the crystallized ground. It was too hard to believe that all of this was really real. All of them were in awe at the sight, and most of them were asking how did this happen, forgetting the relief that they were still alive, safe and sound. Tearing her gaze away from the awe-inspiring sight, Lightning looked over at the ledge Naruto stood on. He seemed to be thinking on what to do next, but she couldn't be sure. He had on that damned mask and sunglasses. She couldn't tell if he was thinking or sleeping. Then the blonde turned back to the others and walked towards them. He stopped next to Kisame and waited for Snow, Saz, Hope, and Vani to regain their bearings. Snow recovered from his shock, looking at the crystallized place. Is this for real? Looks like it. This doesn't seem to be a dream, does it, dumbass? Said Kisame with his shark-like smile. Snow just glared at him. Or a nightmare? Naruto thought, as he only had theories on what had happened to them. Vani nearly fell on the ground in relief. We're alive. But how? She asked no one in particular. Sarah. Snow shouted as a look of realization passed over his face. Naruto only raised an eyebrow and Kisame started to survey the area, ignoring the whole conversation completely. The ecstatic blonde continued. There's no way a person could survive a fall like that. It had to be a miracle. It was Sarah who saved us, he said resolutely. Sarah? Lightning said in an extremely chilly tone. It's all your fault, she got. She was cut off by a call from Kisame, who had taken liberty of watching for any enemies. Watch out. There's some kind of monster here, he yelled, cutting into their argument. Hey, that's a Seath. Saz shouted, seeing the incoming threat. Snow went to protect Lightning, blocking the attack from Aghast with his arms. His new lassie brand started glowing as he fired something from his fist, hitting the Seath. Everyone was shocked at what happened. Naruto had felt a chill pass over him when Snow unleashed his attack. The big blonde was also shocked. He had no idea what he did. He saw his arm glowing moments after he fired the attack. What did I just do? He asked, astounded at what he had done. You used magic. You used the power of a lassie. Hope said, getting up. He was panicking. The fal'Cie cursed us. We're all a lassie now. Hope was starting to feel helpless. Kisame cut into the conversation, quite rudely. Hold on, ya wimp. What the hell is a lassie? He asked. This time the natives weren't shocked, as they had already covered some of this topic earlier. Saz answered him before anyone else got the chance. When the fal'Cie want something done, they make a person a lassie. Lassie have to perform the task, or focus, before their time runs out, or they'll end up like that Seath we just saw. Looks like we're all cursed. The older man said glumly. He was feeling as though what was left of his life was taken from him. Kisame and Naruto put the information away for later use. The shark-like man then remembered something. Hey, what happens if you complete your focus? Everyone looked at him, creating an awkward silence. Saz spoke after sighing. They're granted eternal life and turned into crystal. At least that's what the legends say anyway. Lightning looked like she didn't care. She wasn't in the mood. The woman had just lost her sister. Lightning unsheathed her gunblade, facing the group of ghasts heading their way. Now's not the time to be sulking over this. We have to deal with them. The former GC sergeant has charged at one of the ghast with a blitz attack, followed by Naruto slicing two in half with his behemoth of a sword. Snow punched another while Vani cast an arrow spell and Kisame slashed at it, finishing off the Seath. Kisame gazed at another group of approaching Seath and gave a wild grin as he charged them alone. Naruto and Lightning killed the others using their teamwork, as the pink-haired soldier had her sights on the last ghast of the first group. The ghast cast fire as the last Uzumaki charged at it, ready to use Rasengan, but suddenly stopped. Lightning, not bothering to waste time, attacked it, and she followed up by shooting it with her blaze fire in gun mode. Another shot of arrow by Vani and a frost-strike attack by Snow was enough to kill it. They all watched as Kisame tore through the group of 10 Seath with Samahata like a madman. He looked unstoppable. Naruto only turned back to his view at the ledge. Everyone but him was in awe by the display. Even Lightning slightly appraised him in her mind. As he finished up the last of them, he walked back to his fellow lassie. They started to look for their brands. Snow finally noticed the mark on his forearm. It was the same mark Sarah had. So we really are Lassie. Saz sighed as he looked at his brand on his chest. Things couldn't get much worse for him. Though, knowing his luck, things would go south very quick. Ironic that his son was a Sanctum Lassie and now he was a Lassie from Pulse. Looks like it, he said unsurely. You too? The Nora leader asked Vanille. Yep, right here. She lifted her skirt a little showing her brand briefly. Kisame only smirked when he saw where it was at. Okay. The blonde tried to ignore the unusual place to have a Lassie brand. We all are. Kisame said. He used his chakra to sense where the mark was. His was on the backside of his neck. Naruto walked to the swordsman, joining the group. The entire time he kept an eye on Vanille. Was the Falsi feeling horny when it marked her? He said neutrally. Vanille blushed a little as she tried to make an excuse. Kisame chuckled and stopped her. It's okay. This bastard is just teasing you. That got her to glare fiercely at said blonde. Naruto gave no visible reaction. This only pissed her off further. Snow looked at Lightning as she had her back to them all. What about you, Lightning? He asked sincerely. Me too, she said quietly, trying not to draw more attention to her. So where's your brand? He asked, oblivious to the situation. The older Farron didn't answer, and for some reason her cheeks were slightly turning a small shade of pink. Naruto raised both eyebrows this time and Kisame's smirk was threatening to split his face. Lightning. Snow was starting to get scared. He didn't want his future sister-in-law to be hurt or in trouble. Kisame started to snicker violently while Naruto was starting vibrate with silent laughter. Now everyone was paying attention to her. She decided to get it over with. Quick like a band-aid, right? It's on my breast. She said quickly, but everyone heard her. Kisame fell to the ground laughing his ass off. Saz's eyes widened and he tried to distract Hope and Vanille. He couldn't let children hear what was about to be said. What? Snow asked in disbelief. Lightning rounded on him with a fire in her eyes that promised pain. Shut up, you idiot. Snow knew when to cut his losses and stopped talking. Lightning turned to find Naruto. For some reason she cared about what he thought of her. He was the only one in the group that didn't annoy her or seem like a waste of space. She saw him standing back at his ledge again, not saying a word. She was kind of relieved at that. Had she looked Naruto in the face, she would have seen him struggling not to make a sound as he laughed silently. Lightning then drew her blazefire saber and stabbed it into the ground. Right between Kisame's legs. A wee bit too close to his manhood. The fishman stopped laughing and started sweating bullets with comically wide eyes. Shut up or I'll make sure you never need that, she said in a threatening whisper. Kisame knew better than to gamble with his soldier and quickly nodded. Snow was even more scared now because of what Lightning had done. Saz shared his feelings but was too busy to show it because of his current duty of protecting the kid's innocence. Naruto openly chuckled at what happened to his big blue friend. This made everyone look at him. Now he was nervous and he stopped laughing. Lightning strode up to him with a look that said, "Don't piss me off, I'll murder you." When she was in front of him she spoke. "Where's your brand?" she asked simply. In the background Kisame was picking himself up off the ground and readjusting his outfit. The others started to gather around him. Naruto sighed before he spoke. "It's on my right shoulder blade." Lightning nodded her assent as she accepted the answer. Just then Hope walked to the group and they noticed his brand on his wrist. He was another Lassie too. Lassie to the last. Lightning said calmly. The silver-haired teen fell on his knees. Why me? I don't even know you, but you had to go and attack that thing? His gaze were on the pink-haired soldier. Would it have been better if we got killed by that damn Falsi? Kisame asked, frowning at his comment. Just leave me alone. Hope yelled in desperation. He fell to his knees and put his hands on his head. The annoying brat is at it again, thought Kisame. Hope turned to Snow. It's your fault, my you could've. The teen was struggling to get words out. The teen tightened his fist. He got up, wanting to finally unleash his anger on the Nora leader. All of this is yours and Sarah's fault, he yelled in anger. Watch it. Snow didn't like his comment when he mentioned his fiancée. The silver-haired teen fell on his bottom, keeping his distance from the tall blonde only to have gotten behind someone. Looking above, he saw a very unhappy Lightning staring at him. Like Snow, she didn't like the fact that he blamed her sister for this mess. After seeing her expression, he left crawling on the crystallized ground. He was still panicked by this entire situation. Snow calmed down after a minute, feeling bad for snapping at Hope. Sorry. Calm down. What good would it do to blame others? This isn't the time to be pointing fingers at each other, Naruto said in his calm voice. It seemed to work because everyone stopped tensing up about the situation. Vani took a hold of the teen, smiling. Everything is going to be all right. You'll see, come on, she said cheerfully. She helped him get back to his feet. It's hard to say that in this situation, but it's right to make him feel better, thought Naruto as he silently praised her. Naruto started to walk down the crystallized pathway. Kisame followed him without speaking. Lightning turned to them and spoke. Where do you think you're going? She asked. Naruto never stopped as he responded. If we stay here, someone is bound to find us. I do not intend to find out who it would be. Everyone saw the logic in what he said and followed after the two. Vani started to drag Hope far ahead of the group. Kids, who's gonna watch him? Saz said lazily. Snow grinned before answering. Don't worry, I'll protect them. It's a promise. Saz just shook his head while sighing. How can you protect them if you're just a kid yourself? Snow looked indignant at that while Kisame laughed at him. Lightning and Naruto smirked at his misfortune. But what about Naruto? He can't be any older than me, Snow said while pointing to Naruto, who just raised an eyebrow. Saz sighed for what seemed like the millionth time today. He may be young, but he's more mature than you are. If you look close enough, you can see scars all over his arms. And I'm willing to bet he has a lot more underneath that coat. That most likely means he has been in combat situations and lived through them. Snow took a good look at said blonde's arms and his eyes widened. Saz was right about the scars. They were faint, as if they had been there for many years. Lightning took notice as well and her eyes softened slightly. When Snow asked if he did have more underneath his trench coat, Naruto just kept walking, not answering the question. As the group walked down a section of the destroyed purge train, Lightning saw a sight that made her eyes start to water. Snow rushed forward, running to his crystallized fiancé. Everyone else was deathly silent. It was not their loved one. They had no right to interfere. Snow was mumbling something to Sarah. Lightning caught what he said and, in a moment of fury, she punched him right in the jaw. Sarah's not sleeping, because of you. She didn't finish because her voice started to crack. Saz decided it would be best to change the subject. Trust the soldier to keep her cool through this mess. We need to figure out our focus, Saz said. Okay, if we don't know our focus, how do we complete it? Lightning queried. I think I saw it, Vani said unsurely. Saw what? Naruto asked. Wait, you mean you saw it too? Snow asked, shocked at the revelation. That vision after the fal'Cie marked us? Kisame asked, catching on. That is how a focus comes down, people. The fal'Cie doesn't spell it out with clear-cut instructions. All you get is a hazy glimpse, said Saz. Snow, Naruto, and Lightning gazed at the afro-haired pilot with some suspicion, making him feel nervous. Well, that's what they say, you know, legends and all. Legends, nah. Kisame waved it off. I think the best way to figure your focus is go to the nearest shop and ask. Hello, I'm Lassie. Can you sell me a focus? Vani laughed at the fishman's joke along with Hope. Lightning and Naruto gave a small smile. You think this is funny, son? Asked Saz, looking a bit disturbed. No, I'm just saying if they sell focus on shops it will make it easier on a Lassie, Kisame said in uncaring manner. We should go to Focus R Us, Snow said, following his lead. Exactly, a focus shop, it's nice and very useful too. Everyone was starting to loosen up. 500 gil on a focus, said Hope. You see, you're catching on, Hope, but that's a little too expensive. I would only buy one for 100, said the blue-skinned man. He now knew what this world's currency was. Give me a break. Waste gil on a focus, that's nuts, Saz said in a, oh hell no, tone of voice. They should make one. Hope said, smiling. For a moment he forgot of the big mess they were all in. And they should promoted it too, followed Vani. Naruto was chuckling by this point. Everyone was having a decent time until they looked back and saw Sarah. The sight sobered them up quickly. "Boy, we sure needed that," Snow said, though he didn't seem into it anymore. "Glad I was able to light up the mood," Kisame said and gave a toothy smile. Lightning turned to Hope. "About the vision, did you see anything?" The silver-haired teen erased his smile, remembering the focus they all shared. It's all kind of foggy, but I saw this big towering." "Wait a minute. Hold on now, did we all have the same dream?" Saz asked, cutting the preteen off. "I had that vision of a giant monster in a city. It was probably a city somewhere in Cocoon," Kisame said helpfully. "The city is Eden. I recognized the Tower of Eden Hall where the Falsy Eden resides," Lightning said calmly. "And the monster?" asked Hope, knowing he would regret asking. "Ragnarok," the big blonde said. "That monster was Ragnarok?" Lightning asked. "So we all saw the same dream. We all heard that same voice," Saz said, feeling his headache coming back. "You mean that was our focus, but how are we supposed to know what to do from that?" Hope asked. He was thoroughly confused. "That's the tricky part. The dream's the only hint the Falsy gives us. Figuring out what to do with it, that's our job." Vinny answered his question. Okay, we're pulselessly right. Enemies of Cocoon. Does that mean that our focus is are we supposed to?" said the afro-haired pilot. "It should be the obvious," replied Naruto in his calm voice. Kisame nodded because it made sense. "I guess that's about. Save her." Snow cut in. Everyone turned to Snow. "Say what?" asked Saz. "Our focus is to protect Cocoon," said the tall blonde. "Really? Okay, and why's that?" Vinny asked, honestly wondering why he said that. "Sarah told us let's do it. We're all in this together," he said, more determined than ever. "I'll stay with Sarah, you guys head on. PSICOM will start to close the net they set up to catch us." Everybody started to move on reluctantly, except for Lightning, who just walked off. "Save Cocoon, what a moron." Lightning scoffed at the suggestion. "I'll have to agree with you on that one. Maybe we should buy a focus to save Cocoon, right?" Kisame said, trying to lighten the mood. This time she didn't smile at his joke and she started walking away. Naruto followed her. He was worried at her reaction. She shouldn't have been bottling things up. He stopped to think for a second. Okay, maybe I shouldn't be saying that. He didn't want to be a hypocrite. Lightning's expression was really troubled by Snow's comment of protecting Cocoon as a focus. The former shinobi caught up with her, trying to find a way to calm her down. An angry person made reckless mistakes and he wouldn't risk something like that. He put his right hand on her left shoulder and she stopped. They were far ahead of the others so they couldn't hear them. Lightning looked into his shades and stared into the endless black void. Naruto spoke after a few seconds. "Don't let your anger get the best of you. It will cause you to make stupid mistakes. Here, drink a little, it will calm you down," Naruto said as he handed her the sake jug that was tied to his belt. Lightning stared at it before taking a short swig. He's right. It does help a little, she thought. Lightning then handed it back to the blonde, who tied it back onto his belt. The others had caught up and were talking. "So where are we going exactly?" Hope asked. Lightning had regained some composure and answered him. "To the ruins. If PSICOM left a ship lying around, it'll be there. That place is a perfect staging ground for their patrols." Everyone nodded and started to walk towards the ruins of the Pulsion city. They had fought several Seath along the way. Naruto and Kisame just sat back and let the Auths gain some combat experience. When they arrived, they saw that it was swarming with PSICOM troops. They even had a few behemoths with them. As Lightning was going over a plan to get in, she noticed Naruto and Kisame were no longer beside them. They heard gunshots and shouting. They all looked and saw Naruto cutting down 3 to 4 soldiers at a time while Kisame was killing off the beasts. Lightning was amazed by the way Naruto deflected the bullets off his blade. He never stopped in his bloody rampage. Shortly after the fight started, only the 2 shinobi were left standing. Naruto turned to them and spoke. "Come. A ship is right over there. We don't need to waste any more time." Lightning nodded more to herself and they all rushed to the airship. Saz hopped into the pilot's seat and started to talk as he turned the craft on. "I'm an airship pilot, so no need to worry. Just get the kids strapped in and we'll be off." Hope and Vani were put into seats and they flew off out of the hanging edge. Lightning looked ahead and spotted many PSICOM ships trying to stop them. "Give me the controls," she said, trying to forcefully pilot the ship. Saz started freaking out. "What in the hell are you doing? Are you insane? We're gonna die." He desperately struggled for the steering while Lightning saw the trigger. She held onto it and started blasting them away out. Naruto was gripping onto the seat so hard he had ripped right through it. Kisame hadn't had time to grab anything and flew back, hitting the hard metal wall. He mumbled something about getting his revenge against the two piloting jackasses. They managed to make it out unscathed from the blockade. They flew off, not knowing where to go next. Snow was still in the area where Sarah was stuck to the crystallized ground. The Nora leader hadn't stopped trying to break his fiancé free since Lightning and the others left. He didn't look like he had any intention in stopping. The tall blonde was too determined to stop until he set the younger Farron free. He was so focused he never noticed the shadow clone Naruto had left behind. Its job was to make sure the blonde didn't get in over his head. Saving her isn't his only goal. He had promised Lightning that he was going to save both Sarah and Cocoon no matter what. He made the promise with the intention to fulfill it. Breaking it wasn't an option, even if the former GC sergeant didn't believe him. She mocked him, stating that he was nothing but talk. In her eyes she didn't see him as someone who was fit to save Cocoon since he failed in protecting her sister. But he didn't let this deter him from his goal. In Naruto's eyes he saw his younger self. The young shinobi who would die before he broke his promises. He gave up on that when he was betrayed by the civilian council. When he became a missing nin he had no choice but to look out for himself alone. Befriending Itachi and Kisame had brought him closer to regaining his former moral standing. But he just couldn't push himself to have faith in a random person anymore. Snow was lost in thought. He was still using the piece of sharp rubble he found to break his love free. So far he had not done much damage to crystallized substance. But he wasn't giving up, even if he was reaching exhaustion. Naruto's clone nodded approvingly when he saw this. Snow knew that what Saz said was true. Without the right tools they could digging for a while. And time was something they didn't have. Remembering that the military was after them and anyone that might have survived the purge, they were basically ordered to kill any person they encounter. The Nora leader stopped to take a small breath. He was feeling a bit tired since he started. "Snow," said a monotone voice. Snow was startled and moved to fight, but he relaxed when he came face to face with Naruto's clone. "Oh, it's just you, Naruto. Hey, wait, I thought you left with the others?" Snow asked as he was sure he saw his fellow blonde leave with the others. Naruto nodded and turned to an overlooking ledge. "I did. This is one of my abilities. I can make solid clones of myself, and when they dispel, the knowledge gained is sent to the original. When I dispel, or die, the original will know what I know," the clone said in a calm voice, but he was keeping track of some troops moving towards them. Snow's eyes went wide. "Wow, you're gonna have to show me how to do that sometime," he said jokingly. Naruto just shrugged. "Can't. When I said I wasn't from here or Pulse, I meant it. Where Kisame and I are from. The so-called magic you use as lassie is child's play to what we can do. As shinobi we can manipulate the elements to take a certain shape and use them in battle." Snow looked a little skeptical but relented. "Fine, I guess I have to believe you, don't I? We lassie have to stick together." Naruto nodded before telling him what he originally meant to. "There is a large force of about 30 troops headed your way. I could probably take down 3 or 4, but I only have a small fraction of my master's power, so I won't last long," the shadow clone said calmly, but his actions betrayed his tone because he was drawing his blade. Snow nodded and got ready to fight. "All right, I'm ready. But I need a favor before I lose the chance to ask." He saw the clone nodding his head and continued. "I need you to make sure Lightning is okay. She may be acting tough, but she's never been as sad as she is right now, and I don't want her to make a rash decision." The clone raised an eyebrow but nodded his understanding. Snow turned to see a couple of PSICOM ships passing them by as light hit him and the shadow clone. They unloaded their troops and took off. Before all of the PSICOM soldiers had unloaded, the two blondes had already engaged them. Naruto's clone, who had gained the element of surprise in the sneak attack, had cut 4 of them in half with his massive blade at the waist. This opened a window for Snow, and he took full advantage of it. As troops fell left and right to them, the clone sensed more on the ledge and turned to see a dark-haired woman. She was beautiful but not his type. She had on a black tank top and a pair of shorts that held firm against her body and dark blue robes covering her lower half. She had a wild look in her eyes as she watched the fight progressing. Suddenly Snow pulsed with power and the clone jumped away from the blast created by it. Snow resumed his panting and the soldiers gasped when his lassie brand started glowing in a bright blue light. A blue circle was forming in front of him and it started lifting high above them. "What's he doing?" said a random grunt. "Watch yourself," another said. "Stay alert." "What's happening?" thought the shadow clone. The blue circle exploded revealing two mechanical beings which their facial expressions seemed to be female. One of them threw a wheel glowing with ice. It created a storm as it took every single ranger down. Both Snow and Naruto were shocked at the sight, Snow out of pure awe and Naruto at their manipulation of ice. Both could feel the power that it was emitting from the two beings before them. "What are they?" thought the duplicate. "What's happening?" the Nora leader asked while holding his brand. The two beings stared at him as one of them cast the spell Doom on him. The blonde gasped when the spell hit him. He could hear his heartbeat clearly, along with a countdown of some sorts. He had bad feeling and didn't want to know what would happen if the timer reaches 0. Before he knew what happened, he was attacked by one of the mechanical being using a wheel. He hit the ground and he was healed by the other being. He casted cure on him. This confused both blondes. Why would she bother healing him in the first place? The tall blonde was attacked again by the same moves of the female being using the wheel falling to the ground. Once more the other being cast cure on him. Naruto stood watching not too far from their location. He knew the being saw him, but they were only focused on the Nora leader. "What's going on? Why are they only attacking Snow?" he asked aloud. "The twin sisters," a feral voice said. The clone turned to see the woman next to him. Behind her stood a squad of cavalry soldiers. The clone wasn't happy that they snuck up on him even if he was distracted by the fight. "You called them the twin sisters. Do you know what they are?" he asked calmly, not letting his irritation show. The strange woman nodded. "They're Eidolons." "Eidolons?" he queried. Legends from Grand Pulse tell that Eidolons, mysterious beings, appeared to a few chosen lassie. According to the legends, they give the lassie a trial of life and death. She left the rest of it to the imagination. "So right now Snow is," he started. "He's being chosen by the twin sisters and right now they have started their trial on him." She answered his unasked question. "Do you know what the trial is?" he asked after a few seconds. He turned back to the fight and saw Snow get in a decent hit. "Not a clue, mate, but he better figure it out because if he doesn't then." "What will happen if he wins?" Naruto asked. "If he wins the trial then he'll be able to tame their power and he will have them as his allies. They will fight with him whenever he calls for their aid," she explained. "Like a summon?" the clone said out loud. He was already familiar with the term because he has the summoning contract for the dragons. "Yeah, I guess that's the best way to call it," the woman said with a small, feral grin. He was Bryfly reminded of Kisame. "And if he loses?" he asked monotonously. The warrior's face changed to a serious expression. "Let's hope it doesn't come to that." "He'll die." The shadow clone's gaze was on Snow. "I did mention it's a life and death trial," she said airily. "Anyhow you're gonna have to come with us as well as him if he lives. We're trying to gather the lassie to help Cocoon." She said the statement as if it was rehearsed. "Name's Fang, by the way." Naruto's clone shook its head negatively. "Sorry, but I'm just a clone. When I run out of energy I'll go poof and I'll die. I'm just here to keep an eye on the idiot there. The others are long gone by now." Fang frowned when she heard this. She clearly didn't believe him. "Right, and I'm a pretty little princess," she said sarcastically. Naruto's eye twitched. He got enough of this kind of shit from Kisame. He didn't need any more from this woman. "Whatever you say, Your Majesty. Just because you don't believe it doesn't make it untrue," Naruto said in his monotone voice as he never took his eyes off the fight. Some of the soldiers snickered, including the one that didn't have a helmet. Fang scowled and tried to speak but the clone cut her off. "Anyway, it looks like my job is done and Snow won his fight. Do me a favor and take his fiancée with you as well. The whole reason he stayed behind was because of her. If you take her with you he won't put up a fight." Fang's scowl lessened a little because he gave them some good advice. The clone poofed away, startling the soldiers and Fang. The Pulsion warrior's eyes were wide with awe. He wasn't lying. Damn, things just got a lot more interesting. She turned to look at Snow, who had just defeated his Eidolons, the Shiva sisters, and she walked down with the rest of her task force to greet him. Aboard the airship, Naruto and Kisame were facing the scrutiny of the other members of their small group when Naruto received the memories of his clone. He frowned beneath his collar momentarily before he went stone-faced as he processed the new information. Not that anyone could tell because of his mask. Lightning broke him out of his thoughts before he could ponder any longer on the memories. Well, you both said when we were somewhere safer you would explain yourselves. Start explaining, she ordered as she crossed her arms. Saz, Hope, and Vani were all eagerly listening in, trying to find out information on their new comrades. Naruto sighed and Kisame took over. What do you want to know? Ask your questions and we'll answer them. Truthfully, he added after a confirming nod from Naruto. Saz started. What did you guys mean when you weren't from Pulse or Cocoon? There was a brief silence. That was obviously everyone's first question. Naruto sighed and answered. We come from a different, but parallel dimension. We are from a place called the Elemental Nations. There are 5 main nations which are the lands of fire, lightning, water, earth, and wind. Each of those nations have a shinobi village. Those villages are the strongest in the world and are ruled by the strongest shinobi, or as we call them, Kage. We have the abilities to manipulate the elements and use them in battle. Kisame is very proficient in water techniques, while I am skilled in wind and lightning. More specifically, I created black wind and lightning, which are both a great deal more powerful compared to their regular elements. Kisame and I are what is called missing nins. We left our homes, effectively abandoning the military service we had signed up for, and went rogue for different reasons. Kisame was a ninja for the village hidden in the mist. They had started what would be known as the bloodline extermination of Kiri. The government hunted anyone with special abilities achieved through blood. Kisame's allows him to breathe underwater and above ground. His family shared shark-like qualities and were almost hunted to extinction. Kisame killed many mist shinobi when he fought his way out of Kiri to safety. Naruto paused, letting them absorb what they had learned before continuing. Everyone looked at Kisame with pity. He had suffered for something that wasn't his fault, said Fishman growled. Don't pity me. I hate it. To me that's worse than hating me. Lightning nodded in understanding while Hope and Vanille were wide-eyed at what he said. Saz only sighed and went back to steering the ship. Lightning turned to Naruto. What about you? Why did you leave your home? She asked in a stony voice, but inwardly she was hoping he had an honest reason for leaving. Kisame closed his eyes and turned away, knowing what was coming. Naruto stared out of the window before answering. In our world there are great, powerful demons. They each have a number of tails, starting from the weakest at 1 tail to the strongest, the 9-tailed kitsune. These demons cannot be killed. Thousands have died attempting it. They can only be sealed into a container, though only a newborn child can hold back these great beasts. Their chakra networks, those are what allow us to use our elemental attacks, haven't been fully developed yet and would grow to accommodate the demons. If a demon were sealed into an adult, their chakra would be poisoned by the demon's chakra. Naruto paused momentarily to prepare himself for what he was about to say. Lightning had caught onto what he was saying and her eye widened in a horrified expression. These demon containers are known as Jinchuriki, or power of human sacrifice. They are hated due to the ignorance of others. I am the Jinchuriki for the strongest Biju, the 9-tailed fox or Kyubi no Kitsune. In an attempt to kill me, the civilian council and elders of my home village, Konoha in the Land of Fire, sent me on a suicide mission to kill our village's most powerful and evil missing nin. I later found out about the mission being rigged but continued it anyway. I had recently began attaining fame and influence throughout the village because of my exploits on the battlefield. They saw this as a threat from me. I walked into the council room and threw the bastard's head to their feet. I then slashed my headband, this signifies being a missing nin, and walked out of the village. I killed anyone who got in my way. Many people died that day. None of my true comrades and friends tried to stop me. I was a missing nin for 3 years before we were sent here. He finished in his dead voice. None of them could see his face due to his high collar, but if they could they would have seen a blank face. Lightning's heart instantly did a leap because the man she had recently gained interest in had not been a bad person, but a good man, and a better soldier. She felt a great anger towards the council and elders for an unknown reason. He had served them faithfully and that was how they repaid him. Kisame saw her facial expressions change from the side of his eye. He smirked at what he saw. "You bastard, you already have a girl interested in you only a few days into our permanent stay here. I wish I had your unnatural luck, you bastard," he thought with a sigh. Vani had an uncommon gloomy expression on her face. "He's just like me. Hated for a reason beyond my control. Maybe I should try to be better friends with him," she thought innocently. Hope was starting to cry a little. "I can't imagine living like that. He must be really strong. I wonder if he would teach me to be strong." Saz was crying what he called manly tears, and asked the others not to look at him. This made everyone chuckle except Naruto, who cracked a small smile. Hope asked the next question. "Why are you two here anyway? If you're from a different dimension, then shouldn't your world have very advanced technology?" Lightning nodded as it made sense to her. They waited for their answer from the two shinobi. Kisame took this one. "Well, it all started with what is now known as the Fourth Great Shinobi War." Hope asked the next question. "Why are you two here anyway? If you're from a different dimension, then shouldn't your world have very advanced technology?" Lightning nodded as it made sense to her. They waited for their answer from the two shinobi. Kisame took this one. "Well, it all started with what is now known as the Fourth Great Shinobi War. But first a little history," Kisame said with a small grin. "The elemental nations have never been a hub for technology. I still don't know what half the shit in this room does. We had monitor cameras and televisions but not flying ships. Our boats are still mass-produced in wood." The Lassie group were shocked by the description of their fellow Lassie's world. But that left a question that came to each of them at some point. How did they get here? If technology had nothing to do with how the two shinobi arrived, then what could have possibly happened? Kisame continued his speech, seeing their confusion. "When a madman called Madara Uchiha created a group called Akatsuki, or Red Dawn, he did so with the purpose of gathering all of the tailed demons. Now I'm sure you're wondering why he would need the 9 strongest creatures on the planet. Not for a good reason, at least. He planned to unite all of the demons to create what they originally were, the Gyubi." He stopped talking and had a stony face on as he turned to gaze at the sky. Lightning and the others were a little put off that he had just stopped in the middle of an explanation, more so Lightning out of pure annoyance. Naruto decided he had put off talking about it long enough and wanted to get this whole ordeal out of the way. The Gyubi was also known as the 10-tailed demon. No one knows its true form except for the Sage of Six Paths himself. It would wreak havoc across the lands in humanity's earliest days, destroying civilization as a whole time and time again. Then one day a man with powerful eyes, the Sage of Six Paths, did battle with the beast. It raged on for days, tearing across the landscape. When the fight was nearing an end, the sage sealed the mighty demon into himself and sealed the body into a mass of earth, which became the moon. Upon his death he feared the beast would wreak destruction and chaos once again, so he split it into 9 pieces, the tailed beasts. Kisame cut in, finally back from his momentary reprieve. So if Madara had gathered all of the demons and sealed them within himself, he would have an endless chakra supply. He then planned on using that to cast an illusion that would reflect off of the moon and basically capture the entire world in a never-ending mind control. You can see why the leaders of our world had such a problem with this. Lightning and Saz both nodded their heads in understanding. Hope and Vani, while they didn't entirely understand the situation, knew that controlling the minds of the entire planet wasn't exactly a good or popular idea. So the 5 great nations did something never before seen in our entire history. They all united together against Madara, putting aside their own grudges and hate for one another to serve a greater cause. And they won. The road that leads to victory will prevent war for a long time at least. So in simple terms they achieved peace. Kisame finished. Naruto said one last thing before they went into an uncomfortable silence. He claimed that he was doing this so there could be peace. That isn't peace, it's imprisonment. They would be able to see and feel everything that happened to them, but they would only be prisoners in their own bodies. Only freed by death. Cheeky smiley face, 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 cheeky smiley face. A couple of hours later with Snow was not having a good day. No, not a good day at all. First his rescue attempt failed and Sarah was turned to crystal. Then he was made into a lassie by some damned falsie. And now he was taken by some military personnel, and to top it off they took his fiancée as well. He thought back on what happened after they caught him. Flashback: right after he had defeated the Shiva sisters, a whole contingent of armed soldiers rushed the area and surrounded him. Before he even had a chance to fight back, they disabled him and started to move him towards a ship that had just arrived. As they took him away, Snow noticed the white marked on her right shoulder, but it was clear that it was a lassie brand. "You two, why are you helping them?" he asked in confusion. Fang smirked before speaking. "If I were you, I'd worry about myself." End flashback. Needless to say, he was pissed. Fortunately though, they brought Sarah with them, so that was a plus in the entire ed-up situation. Some soldiers told him they were currently on their way to the Lindblom and meet up with some guy named Rains. All he could do was wait and see what would happen next. Cheeky smiley face, 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 back with Naruto and the others. After flying from the ruins, they finally headed to the surface. They were met by the beautiful view of the sunlight sky. Above them stood a cradle-like island floating above which it was the capital city of Eden. They had no time to be sightseeing because they were still being chased by PSICOM. They opened fire once more, but Saz was quick to evade them. There were times he was impressed of his own piloting skills. "They're still on us," Hope yelled while freaking out. Kisame glared at him while at the same time tried to maintain a grip on his seat. "Well, THAANNKU sir, shit's a lot. I would have never figured that out." That got a glare in return. The ship dodged more fire, but more enemy ships arrived to back up the other Sanctum ships. They fired and managed to hit the lassie ship as everyone felt the tremor that hit them. "We're taking hits," Vani screamed while clutching onto her legs tightly. "No, you think?" Kisame, for some reason or another, felt like being the biggest ass he could be. And it was starting to show. "Come on, give me a break," Saz called out in frustration. The African-American man took his chances, knowing another way to lose them completely. He pressed the turbines of the ship to maximum level. Increasing the speed of the ship by 100%, he knew it will be risky since the ship will lose a lot of fuel, and weapons systems will be down. For a ship flew so fast it went ahead, leaving the canyon. The PSICOM forces were confused, seeing a blur moving ahead. They ended crashing by the rocks of the canyon. It looked like they were safe and away from harm. Everyone on board gave a small sigh of relief, happy that it was finally over, more so Kisame. He was more of an ocean and water person, not a sky-high guy. Saz was checking on the ship after he deactivated the turbines, once it was safe to do so. He hit the controls, feeling frustrated at their situation. After he hit the controls, he seemed to have hit the communications program. A hologram appeared in front of him as well as in the passenger's seat. They were all watching as it was showing the ruin of the Pulse vestige. It looked like it was a news broadcast. Next, an update on the status of the purge. Just moments ago, the Sanctum announced the successful conclusion of the purge along with the safe arrival of the Cocoon migrants to their homes on Pulse. Naruto didn't like what he saw, and neither did Kisame or any of the others aboard. The people of Cocoon didn't even know the truth behind the purge in the first place. It wasn't right to keep the truth hidden from them. Saz pressed another button on the hologram, changing the channel to another broadcast, which it was an interview to an old man in robes. They all were familiar with him, except the two shinobi and Vani. The figure was Primarch Disley. "Yes, that is correct. There's no denying the enormity of the strain the purge placed on us all. But given the tens of millions of lives at stake, there truly was no alternative. Primarch Disley stood by the move, stressing the necessity of the relocation. When asked about the possibility of future purges, the Primarch remained noncommittal, stating that only that he'd seek counsel with the Fal'Cie Eden and weigh all options before making a decision. Let the Fal'Cie make the decision. He should rely more on his own voice than letting that Eden or whatever it's called make the decisions for him. Kisame mocked in a bored tone as he pulled out a kunai to pick his teeth. The act was disturbing Hope greatly. When he looked to Vani for support, she was humming happily with a grin as she gazed out of the window. Yeah, that's right, if it makes the sanctum look bad, it never even happened. Saz said in agreement with Kisame. He looked disgusted with the way things were heading in the conversation. In all the centuries since the War of Transgression, Cocoon has been spared pulse aggression, and prospered for it. It is essential that we maintain this peace. That is the sanctum's focus. We will continue to employing every resource available to combat these threats to the harmony of our society. Meaning we'll be running for the rest of our lives. Saz grumbled unhappily with a sigh. Hey who is this guy? Asked Vani. Saz sighed at her question. I mean, what do they teach kids these days? He's Gallanth Disley, the Sanctum Primarch or Murder-in-Chief. Just another tool of the Fal'Cie. Lightning said seriously, her eyes reflected hatred and pain. Naruto saw the expression in her eyes and could only shake his head. She was obviously upset with not only their situation but the fact that a Fal'Cie did this to them, and Sarah too. The blonde shinobi didn't blame her, but putting the blame on someone to make herself feel better. He didn't believe in that. What's done is done. There's no changing the past. The only thing he could do to help her was to aid her when she needed help. To help her focus on their goal. To help get over her hate. Naruto sighed again. This wasn't going to be easy. Nothing ever was for him. According to our instant poll, nearly 90% of Cocoon citizens agree with the Sanctum's handling of the purge. 70% of respondents said they would also support additional purges were the need to arise. Let's purge everybody, that'll fix it, said Saz. An alarm was sounded through the entire airship. They heard the sound of guns being fired as they spotted Sanctum troops' ships flying their way. So much for being safe. They've found us already, that was fast, Hope said in a worried tone. Kisame chuckled at the statement. You really thought they were gonna let us go so easily? You gotta get your head set straight. We're at war with Cocoon now. Lightning and Naruto nodded grimly to the fishman's observation. Points for perseverance. The afro-haired pilot commented. More like points for being pests, Naruto said in annoyance. As they flew higher into the sky, they were all blinded by a bright light. They were all met by the burning figure of the Fal'Cie that give the artificial sun light to Cocoon. They were all in awe at the sight, just in varying degrees of amazement. A Sanctum Fal'Cie up close and personal. Cocoon's own light in the sky. Saz smiled while his chocobo chick left his afro to see the bright view. They were rudely interrupted from heavy enemy fire as they felt the ship getting hit again. Here we go again, Saz said with yet another sigh. Fly and we'll lose them in there, Lightning shouted. Saz wordlessly obeyed, flying closely to the burning Fal'Cie. He carefully dodged the rays of artificial sunlight so as to not get burned and destroyed. The PSICOM ships weren't so lucky, as some of them were destroyed for getting too close at the sun rays. I like this Fal'Cie, Saz shouted with some humor in his voice. There's more of him, Vani said in worry. Yes, we can see that. Oh, look out for that deadly birdie. No, please don't lay eggs on us. Kisame shouted at the end with comically wide eyes as his face was glued to the window. Everyone paused at his insult, claim. Most stared at him with bothered looks. Whatever you've been smoking, I want some, Naruto said in his monotone voice. They managed to avoid them, but they got hit once more. It was all the ship could take. Saz was trying to control the ship, but he knew it was futile. The energy shields were down and fuel gauges have been hit too. He knew very well what was going to happen next. This is also result from using the turbines earlier. Everyone, we're going down, hang on. Oh, I don't want to die, shouted Hope. Lightning opened her eyes. She looked around her and found that she was still alive. They have somehow survived the crash, which it was a miracle remembering how fast they were falling. Her eyes widened, realizing she had someone standing above of her. She turned to see that it was Naruto. A blush struck her face, having the Uzumaki so close to her. Her body was the one thing reacting strangely, and even if he was fully clothed, He was still too close for her to comfort her. She dispelled any thoughts regarding her situation with the masked blonde. Now it was not the time or the place for any kind of that stuff. She was jarred from her thoughts by his voice. Wake up, I believe we still have people after us, and sleeping isn't exactly helping us. Lightning's brow twitched at the comment. Though it was monotone, it still had the smart-assy feel to it. As she got up, the former guardian looked around and recognized their current location. The Vile Peaks. She gave a sigh. The former sergeant went to hope to wake him up while Naruto went to do the same for Vani and Saz. Kisame was already awake and was staring at the night sky. Hey! Lightning said as she shook Hope awake. A growling sound stopped both from doing so and caught Kisame's attention. Said Fishman merely heaved Samahata off of his back and leaned it on his shoulder before the fight started. Lightning unsheathed her blazefire saber, spotting a Pantheran, but unfortunately more of them came, giving the enemy a total of 4. Naruto took his blade out, knowing that they would have to fight them because the others were still unconscious. It wasn't long when Vani woke up that she saw the former soldier and both shinobi fighting the group of Pantherons. She couldn't let them fight them on their own, not by her own moral code. For now she forgot the fact that she was still alive. She rushed to Saz's side and started shaking him roughly. You've got to wake up, she said to Saz. As the laid-back man groggily woke, Vani went to Hope. Wake up. She shook him just enough to wake the teen. Look, she said as she pointed to Naruto, Kisame, and Lightning fighting the Pantherons. The afro-haired pilot saw the redhead leaving, heading to the battle. Hey, slow down, Saz shouted as he followed her lead. Glad to have you guys decided to wake up. Kisame gave them a toothy smile. Ready, Vani said with determination. Got to keep you kids safe, right? Saz said as he unholstered his pea-sittles. Who are you calling kids? Kisame with questioned sweat dropped at his comment. The afro-haired man didn't answer his question because the battle started. Lightning used a blitz comboed with a horizontal strike, dealing a good amount of damage on one of the bio creatures. Vani used water and arrow to soften up one of the enemy, while Saz used flame strike and fire to kill one of the Pantherons. Naruto had chosen to focus the ability of his jutsu and was able to perform Futon Doki no Kei's Ryujin as he finished one of the bio weapons by tearing it to pieces with his winds. Lightning took down another, and the last one was defeated by Kisame slamming his, still wrapped up, blade down onto it, crushing it to death. Vani ed as she put her binding rod on her back. Glad that's over. She seated herself on the ground, followed by Saz. Both seemed to be tired from the running and the fighting. Add that on to the fact that they just survived a crash landing. They only wanted to take a nice rest from all of the day's stress. Lightning didn't approve. There wasn't any time to be resting. Hell, they were still being chased by the Sanctum. They needed to keep going. Naruto and Kisame weren't tired at all. They still had plenty of energy to walk and fight. Neither had any trouble with getting things done thanks to their own intense training as shinobi. They still needed to eat and sleep, but both had a large amount of stamina as always. If they didn't leave now, PSICOM might find them again, and that wasn't good. Both shinobi were feeling the same way as the pink-haired soldier. Lightning strode right them by with Naruto following her, both headed for what looked like a gateway. Saz looked up from his seat with blatant confusion. What? No break? The afro-haired pilot asked while lightly panting. Kisame watched him and the others with amusement. They're tracking us, was Naruto's simple, yet infuriatingly monotone, reply as he didn't even look back. Kisame stayed put with Vani and Saz. Hey, they couldn't have one group underpowered just because he didn't want to, in his words, babysit the weaklings. They are going to be here any minute. The smoke from the crashed airship will eventually bring their attention straight to us, Lightning said in a cold tone. I know that. But I also know that we aren't soldiers. We don't have your kind of stamina, Saz shouted in frustration. You've got enough to complain, was the older Farron's smart-ass reply. Kisame laughed loudly at her comment, drawing attention to himself. She's got a point, Saz, but that's not a problem for me. And it won't be one for you if I have anything to say about it. This called forth surprised looks from most of the group. Saz's jaw dropped as he stuttered. Wait a minute. You were serious when you said you'd help me get stronger? He asked astonishedly. Kisame rolled his eyes but nodded nonetheless. He gave a nod to his fellow shinobi, giving him the signal that they'd be fine and to go on ahead.
Wasting no time, Lightning started to leave with the blonde Jinchuriki following her.
Oh, forget it. Where are they going? Kisame was starting to get annoyed with his afro-haired companion. Don't worry about it. You should be more concerned with yourself. When I'm done with you'll hate me. That's how you'll know when you've been trained right. The menacing grin he gave Saz didn't give the man any hope for the future. Speaking of hope. Hope went to them looking unsure of what to do next. I think, He seemed to be struggling to find the right words. I'd stick with her if I were you, said Saz. I don't want both of us to suffer through the shit storm coming through. Goodbye. The silver-haired teen left following the former soldier and shinobi. Vani finally got up looking like she had enough rest and was ready to go. Come on. Let's keep going. Kisame smirked at her enthusiasm. He'd trained that out of her while he was at it.
Get going to where, exactly? Saz asked lazily, still sitting in his resting spot. He didn't look like he'd be going anywhere soon either.
The whole army of Cocoon is against us. No matter how far we run, there's no escape. That Seath clock is still ticking. He continued, trying to see why this girl was always so happy and upbeat. There's still time, she said with determination. You give up too easy, old man. Kisame chuckled at the remark while Saz's eyebrow was twitching. I'm not giving up, but there are some things you just can't change. A kid like you wouldn't understand, he said in a defeated tone as he went back to looking at the stars. Yeah, I'm a kid, I don't understand, Vani said in a sarcastic tone as she pouted at his comment. She went over to him to help Saz up. Well, I guess we can be fugitives together. He tripped slightly, pushing the redhead a little. Kisame cut back into the conversation as he was tired of waiting around and doing nothing. You ready? He asked as he looked at the different paths they could take. Ready, Vani said as she was ready to catch up to the others. Vile Peak's dismal dunescape with lightning and company. The odds that PSICOM had found their location were high. Judging from the way they were being chased, no doubt they must have pinpointed their locations by now. She wasn't going to waste time and let a group of PSICOM do what they please when they found them. There weren't any doubts in her mind about them eventually finding her. After all, the peace of Cocoon is the most important thing. And they can't have peace with Pulse Lassie running around. That's why taking them out was their first priority. The Sanctum knew no rest when it came to the enemy of Pulse, now that they were the enemy's Lassie in their world. Lightning had no doubt that they would put their best effort into making sure that the job was done, no matter how dirty it was.
Naruto, on the other hand, was feeling annoyed. Why did they have to crash land in another strange environment he knew nothing about? False information and lack of information has led to the death of many fine shinobi. Going into a combat situation with no idea what to expect was never a good thing for anyone. Information was ultimately the key to victory in many cases. It was something he always strived to have. He never liked getting caught off guard. And it showed. If only be his minute tensing. The pink-haired soldier turned when she heard something and saw Hope walking to them. Naruto followed her gaze. Glad you could join us. Hope wasn't sure if he meant it or not. He couldn't pick up any trace of emotion in his voice and his face. Well, that was a dead end too. All hail the mask. Just you? Lightning asked as she kept a lookout for enemies. For now, I guess. Should we wait? He asked in an uncertain voice which made Naruto frown behind his mask. He'd have to fix that. It could lead to problems down the road. They'll catch up eventually, Lightning said in her usual cold tone. I'm sure those three can look after themselves, Naruto assured him. Especially if Kisame is with them, they'll be fine. They resumed their pace while Hope was staring at his two companions. But his gaze fell on Naruto. Ever since he saw him fighting, he felt like he was dragging the group down. He wanted to fight too and take a stand for what he believed in. He needed the motivation and strength if he did intended to face Snow again. He decided it was time to test his new abilities as an Lassie if he wanted to survive. And more importantly, at least to him, to get his revenge. Hope felt shame as he had been staying in the sidelines for most of the fighting. It was time to change that. I'm ready to fight, he said, his voice still quivering but not as much as before. Lightning turned to him after he made the declaration. Naruto didn't face him, but he did stop. His voice broke the silence that had descended upon them. And what will you fight for?
was the question that stunned both Hope and Lightning. I have to face someone, and make them pay for what they've done, he said as he looked at the ground. Naruto gently shook his head at the answer. You are not ready. That brought about a panicked look to Hope's face and an inquisitive one to Lightning's. What? But why? He asked shakily. Lightning remained quiet as she wanted to hear the answer to the question as well. You gain true power and strength when you fight for someone you hold precious to your heart. Hatred and vengeance just cloud your judgment and make you weaker. When you let go of your hate, then I'll help you. No sooner. Before any more could be said, a group of PSICOM soldiers and beasts came into their line of sight and attacked them without hesitation. Naruto made the first move, casting Libra on the green-colored creature that resembles a pantheron. Seeing the information, he noticed it is called Dexterin and figured out its elemental weakness and strength, with a small bonus. Watch out, it can cast bravery. He warned the others as he brought out his sword and disappeared, only to reappear behind two of the PSICOM soldiers. With a heave of his blade, they were separated at the waist. The other Sodliers turned to fight him while the beasts glared hungrily at Lightning and Hope. Lightning nodded as she went to attack the Dexterin with her gunblade. She followed up with another attack and using Ruin to weaken it. During this time, Hope got ready to attack. The teen felt the magic circling around him and focused on attacking the creature. Fire emerged from his free hand. He gasped but managed to release the spell correctly, making the flames hit the bioweapon. Trying to come up with a decent follow-up, he continued with Arrow and Blizzard. The Dexterin never got the chance to cast Bravery since it was outmatched in strength. With its defeat, Hope felt a strong jolt of confidence hitting him. He was pleased with himself and his performance. I did it! He shouted in joy. Lightning put a stop to that real quick. Don't just stop in the middle of a fight, she shouted, only noticing the two rockets a soldier managed to get off before Naruto tore him to bits. One rocket hit the remaining Pantheron by accident while the second almost hit the two Lassie. Lightning managed to push them both out of the way before it hit some of the trash and caused a cave in that blocked their original path. Now, even though all of the enemies were defeated, they had no other option than to continue forward. Naruto summed up the situation pretty well. Well, this sucks. The end. Now we will see you in the next video.